Major funding for Discovery Road was provided by Pima County Attraction and Tourism, additional funding provided by Santa Cruz Valley National Heritage Area and the National Park Service.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Discovery Road. I'm James Nelson. We're in the desert Southwest in Arizona, about to embark on a fascinating journey to learn more about Native Americans, food and ranch histories, wildlife, and a very important river. And oh yes, we'll be paying a visit to the enchanted neighborhood of the Big Cactus. That's a lot on our plate. We'd better get started. Our visit to the Santa Cruz Valley National Heritage Area starts with this man who walked the entire Santa Cruz River, discovering beauty, birds, and a cache of knowledge about life in the desert.
This particular stretch of the river is just like not part of the desert at all. It is cottonwood and willow forest, and it's just beautiful. And I thought, wow, this is really spectacular. If this stretch of the river is so good, maybe I should walk the rest of it. And right there, it entered my mind, well, if I'm going to walk some more of the Santa Cruz River, why don't I just do all of it?
It took a while, but he did it in his own way. He mapped out this special waterway.
Oh my, the Santa Cruz River is such an interesting river. First off, folks have to understand that when we use the word river in this context, we're talking about a stream of water in the desert. Any water in the desert is just a fantastic gift because you can't live in the desert without water. The Santa Cruz River has historically flowed as a typical desert river, which is an intermittent, ephemeral river. Parts of it on the surface, other segments go under the sand and flow underground, so on the surface it looks dry, and then it may reemerge further downstream. And because any water in the desert just totally changes the environment, the plant and animal life surrounding it is dramatically different than the typical desert. So the Santa Cruz River is an excellent example of that. Well, look, there's all kinds of things. Here's, let me see here. Oh, here is something that happened here in the Santa Cruz Valley. Rafael Pompelli was a first mining engineer in these parts in the 1850s.
When it comes to the desert, Dan Judkins is always thirsty for knowledge, tirelessly studying and researching the river, the landscape, wildlife, and the people.
But I'm really interested in history that took place through all of the time periods in southern Arizona and the consequences of that history, which was people adapting to this area and to change and culture shifts and how their cultures evolved as a result of that.
In his cabin-like office, Judkins pores through the records, documents, and books on the region, much like a detective, focusing on the Hispanic culture, Native American culture, and others, and their amazing stories here in the desert.
I think the other aspect of history that makes me so fascinated is how the people that moved into an area and met each other, learned how to live with each other, and all of the cultural change that was going on has led to an enormously rich culture that I grew up in here on this river.
It's just a chance glimpse seeing pronghorn crossing a stretch of open plain way out here, and spotting this creature. Oh my goodness, the seldom seen Gila monster, part of the beaded lizard family. A poisonous survivor from prehistoric dinosaur days. And of course, all of the inhabitants have secret ways of adapting to the wicked desert. That brings us to this place, a wildlife crossing where every month, mostly when the sun goes down, 2,000 or more desert animals navigate around a busy highway below to reach the other side.
We also call it the Wildlife Bridge. It spans Oracle Road, which is 6 lanes of traffic, and it's connecting the Catalina Mountains and the Tortolita Mountains, or essentially Catalina State Park and state lands to the west, for a whole bunch of different species of wildlife that we have here in southern Arizona in the Sonoran Desert. That bridge was a 20-year project in the planning. It was built and constructed in 2016. So it's been in place for about 10 years now, almost 10 years now, and it's working so well.
From a young age, Marino found the desert to be a special place, where she made plaster casts of tracks discovered in dry wash beds. Today, she calls her work her passion and a blessing.
We're helping them and we're helping us at the same time. And I think it's important to remember that we live here on this planet with all of these species. And when I say with, I mean with. Like, we need them. We need the water, we need the clean air, we need the habitat as much as they need it too. So we're helping each other out at the same time. It really is fun to see wildlife crossing structures and that open space protection be put into place, and it's tangible, you can see it.
A wildlife crossing above the road and an underpass below, equipped with wildlife cameras allowing technology to monitor animal movement, patterns, and activity, right along with species identification.
Yeah, the wildlife camera program that we're running has been so instrumental into getting these projects done, not only because we're gathering the data that justify where we need to place wildlife crossing structures, but also getting neighbors and residents engaged and taking ownership of it and feeling connected to it and getting to see the animals you normally don't see because they move around late at night or early in the morning and you don't know they're there, sneaking around behind your house, you know? So we have about 80 active cameras out on the landscape across all of our projects.
It's like an all-night movie channel with a new feature every doggone time they take a look.
We have deer that come through the backyard, so we love watching them at night, and they're picked up by our game camera that we have on our back fence.
We check it usually every 6-8 weeks or so, and it works out. We've got a regular little circuit we do around here. We've got about 5 cameras that we're monitoring.
And it's in your backyard, literally.
It's between here and the wall and the underpass, yep.
A continuum of care surrounds the crossings. Reseeding replenishes the habitat for the animals, providing cover for their journey.
Same time, we're creating pollinator corridors for bats and for bees and for insects and seed food resources for birds. You can do all kinds of things at the same time, and it's really exciting to see that not only are you helping bighorn sheep and mule deer cross the road safely, but you're also helping, you know, the songbirds too.
For Jessica Marino, the learning never stops, and her dream job in the desert remains very real.
And I came from a very outdoorsy family, so it was pretty natural for me to go into that kind of field. I was raised by the desert. It just feels great to be able to give back to the desert as well in my career and my job. That feels very fulfilling. And continue to work in the place that I grew up, making the animals and the wildlife and the plants and everything here exist for the next generation, for my kids too. So they can run around and also make plaster casts of mountain lion tracks in the underpass.
Any trip to the Saguaro National Park is an engaging experience. The plentiful, courtly cactus, in all shapes, sizes, and colorations, are captivating. And the icon of the desert Southwest, the saguaro, is where we found a marvelous story.
Good day, my name is Dr. Giselle Ramon Sabran. I come from the Santa Barbara district on the Thanatam Nation.
Our conversation was an intriguing lesson about the land and the people.
When I talk about the history, I talk about the land, it's very much centering yourself in place and knowing whose land you're standing upon, and just thinking about my ancestors and, just utilizing the land. The late Elder Bernard Siqueiros shared that, when you look into our Juarga, into our land, into the desert, it was our pharmacy. It was our grocery store. It was our hardware store. And so, and it provided for us in all of those ways.
Inside the Saguaro National Park Museum, visitors can learn about the park, history, and the people. And this photo exhibit tells even more of the Big Cactus story.
And, certainly even today within Saguaro National Park, having this very special place where this is the only place in the world where saguaros, or as we call haharshan, grow. These are our ancestors, and we've been carrying on a tradition here for time immemorial, of harvesting the fruit and giving our thanks to our ancestor and giving, an opportunity for us to be together.
The harvest is family time to make jam, syrup, and ceremonial wines, mark the start of a new year, and offer a welcome call for the rains to come.
Our language, in O'odham, we call it Nyok, and it is something that I was very fortunate to grow up hearing spoken on a daily basis in my home. It's my mom's first language and all her siblings and all the generations before. And so for me, English is my first language, but again, hearing the language spoken at home. But not everybody within my tribe had that luxury that I did with hearing it every day.
Progress on the language may be gaining momentum these days at the Tohono O'odham Community College.
And, it is considered an endangered language, and we are doing everything that we can to preserve it and revitalize it. And right now we are having a language center being built at Thanatam Community College, the main campus there. And so it's really exciting because we're actually going to have one place that has everything language, where I felt like before, you could pick up language and learn about language, but it was like different places.
Language, history, education, and storytelling, all important projects.
But we're very resilient people, we live here in the desert. You have to be smart to live in the desert, and we are still here and we will always be here.
Our tour of the Santa Cruz Valley National Heritage Area rolls on with a visit to this roadside store where we found chili sauce, spices, family recipes, and astonishing stories.
I think it's who we are. And I think many people I think are attracted to come down here to our store because we have been here for so long. We haven't moved. They like the story. They like the fact that how long we've been doing this and that we've been thriving while we're doing it. And it represents this part of southern Arizona and northern Sonora. And whether it's cowboys or farming or just manufacturing and making products that people like and people use every day in their cooking, that's part of their history.
Neubauer's father, Gene England, a savvy entrepreneur, bought a ranch in southern Arizona in 1931 and started growing chilies. But they didn't sell, so he started drying them in the sun, searching for the perfect flavor, then grinding them into powder. That did it. Restaurants and family cooks raced to get the chili powder. Then came chili paste, spices, and salsas, and more than 80 years of happy, loyal customers.
You can you do salmon like as a sausage, you can put it over eggs or yeah. But I haven't heard of anyone try it on enchiladas.
I've never made.
Neubauer found a way to marry the rich history of the chili and spices to her own family story and traditions with a cookbook.
Well, I think it's the history of this part of the world, of southern Arizona, in terms of how people cook and what they eat is a big part of our cultural heritage. Chili, obviously, is a big portion of how menus and recipes have been created throughout the thousands of years here in southern Arizona. So the fact that we have a product that many of locals, Hispanic people use in their cooking, the idea of adding history to a recipe book just kind of made sense.
Gene England was much more than chili powder. He was a cowboy wrangler, airline pilot, silversmith. He did stunt riding in movies and became pals with Western stars of the silver screen.
These guys all kind of hung out together, and particularly with Western movie stars. And several of them came out here to the ranch with my father, and it was just part of the social life. Esther Muir, who played with the Marx Brothers, actually was married at our ranch, but John Wayne was out here, Charlie Starrett, the Durango Kid, Tim McCoy. All of these are sort of old-time cowboy movie stars. All, they love the West, and this is the West. It's ranching and cowboying, and what they were playing on screen was actually how we lived.
The Rock Corral Ranch remains a palatial garden, homestead, and a museum-like compound filled with amazing history pieces, like the McClellan saddle, made by Jeannie's great-great-great-grandfather for the Union Cavalry during the Civil War.
And the interesting story here is that the Durango Kid, Charlie Starrett, was in here at one point with his whole outfit on. And I'm sure that alcohol wasn't involved, but anyway, in the midst of this, he aims his 6-shooter at the window. Bets were laid as to whether it would put a hole in the window or blow out the window. What made a hole? Their bullet hole is still there. That's been there since 1942. Bullet hole is right here. That's actually a Civil War Springfield rifle. That built the castle.
The family stories haven't been forgotten, neither have the recipes that were part of the remarkable journey. A taste of history like none other.
I sort of worry that people don't take enough risks nowadays. Not the right kind of risk, where you go out and you've got an idea and you go out and make it happen. And I think my family story is full of people like that, who came out and built castles, who came and built this chili factory, who did all sorts of things and sort of created from the resources that they had something really wonderful.
The Pascua Yaqui story begins along the Rio Yaqui Valley in the northwestern Mexico state of Sonora, where they planted and harvested the desert landscape, withstood conflicts with other cultures, eventually migrating to southern Arizona. The deer dance and deer song are widely known in the Yaqui world, considered a sacred blessing and ceremony, showing the deer as a symbol of goodness, who sacrifices so others can live. And the hummingbird, a part of the Yaqui culture. They believe it comes from the flower world with blessings and messages. There are many other important customs and traditions of the Yaqui.
So today's activity, since we finished our manual, we're going to almost like review the things that we learned, and we're going to draw some of the things that are there in our culture, and we're gonna make a book called the accordion book. And usually this project, is for your children. You're gonna teach them, oh, this is what I learned, and you're gonna draw this. And
Felipe Molina is teaching students important lessons about the culture and rich oral history of the Yaqui.
after you finish it, give it to the next person. Paper, fold. And then you're gonna cut it in half. Chop. We're gonna name it UMM Oahu or UMM Ta'au, but the UMNO, that'd be better. Okay? Okay. So that would be on this side. So you see how this is standing? This will be the cover.
Okay.
Am I right or wrong? Okay. Awaso. Sawa. Cottonwood leaf.
The classroom approach encourages the use and practice of the language and the overall preservation of it.
I know Monicia was asking about a cottonwood. How does a cottonwood look? And I said there's some in Marana. I would try to get the leaves. And I tried to, but the tree was so tall, I couldn't get it. So, but this one was near the canal and was hanging lower. So I'm gonna get it now. So I got it.
Is that the tree that feels fuzzy?
Yeah, they have like cotton, and then like a certain time of the year they can see them floating in the air. This is hiosia. What am I saying?
Paper.
Paper, hiosia.
I've learned the days of the week so far, and I've learned how to ask, what day it is and how to respond the day of the week, and, just basic greetings and responding. But it's really important that our people learn the Yaqui language and that we don't forget it, because if anything, we don't want the language to die out before the people. So we gotta make sure that we learn that language and we pass it on to the future.
Annual events, activities, and ceremonies offer more of the intriguing story of the Yaqui in southern Arizona. Not far from Tucson, Arizona, nestled in the Santa Rita Mountains, a one-of-a-kind place for hikers, campers, and visitors from around the world to quietly find a seat in the living room of an outdoor birdhouse and experience life in a woodland. The whispers, people telling of a sighting. Like a small-town airport, the birds keep coming in and taking off. They never stop talking or singing from their songbooks.
Just a whole different suite of birds than I have at home. And just the beautiful canyon, just getting away, turning our cell phones off except for making checklists. It's just a wonderful experience.
Just today we saw a red-faced warbler and a golden-eyed yellow-eyed junco. Two new birds for us, and 3 years in a row now that we've seen live birds each time that we've come up to Madera Canyon.
The unorchestrated, top-of-the-line action here, an international favorite stopover for bird watching, and for this couple, an enchanting place to celebrate their anniversary.
Well, it's just a magical place for us. When we come here, we get away from the everyday life and we come and experience the Southwest desert, which is different than what we live with in Northern California. And like Della said, we have a different suite of birds here that we get to see.
Like the countless thousands who find time to stop over in Madera Canyon, The Alcorns take home precious memories and lots of pictures. For Della, there's another way to share a bird's life, making her photographs into birthday and greeting cards. They both see the birds as unwitting messengers about the world.
I think that they're a great indicator of just the quality of the habitat and the condition of our world. And if the birds are thriving, then our world is thriving. If the birds are declining, that tells us something about our world, and we're the stewards of it. It's our business to take care of it.
Della, what about your thoughts?
I couldn't say it any better. They are the litmus paper for how our environment is doing.
One visit to the desert and a fascinating ride on the Arizona highways. Oh my goodness. Wildlife struggling for existence, people clamoring for survival, and unforgettable, romantic, amazing song of the land in the American Southwest. I'm James Nelson. We'll see you next time out here on Discovery Road.